Barca was a very well-renowned man. Okay, so when you go into the history of not only him, but during that time frame, Second Punic War came a little bit before the revolt in Israel with the Maccabees. Okay, the Maccabees revolt started around in 166 BC. If you go into First Maccabees and the King James Apocrypha, there's a historic evidence of an Israelite revolt, and it was against the Edomite Caucasian European nation. Okay, and that was called the Greeks. And what you have is a Levite priest of the southern kingdom of Judah, his name being Modin Matthias. He was a Hasmonean that sparked this revolt. He sparked the revolt against the Seleucid Empire, right, which came from the foundation of Alexander the Greek. Okay, and he did this by refusing to worship the Greek gods. This is what the Maccabees brothers did. They also didn't want to give up their heritage. Now, a lot of the history books fail to mention that part of why the Maccabees revolted. They didn't want to give up their heritage. That part is taken out of the history books. They just said they didn't want to keep or follow the Greek gods. So when he dies, his son Judas Maccabees, he takes over as the general or the captain of the army. And he was known for bringing guerrilla warfare tactics to restore the kingdom of Judah. So all the men who followed the laws in the city of Jerusalem or the southern kingdom of Judah, they were the ones who were going out there fighting. Okay, they revolted and won for a little while, but the Greeks eventually overcame them following Lysimachus. Lysias took over the agreement of Seleucid. So the Romans came not too much farther after that. So when you look at the history of southern kingdom, you also have to look at the history surrounding, or the external history of the things that was going on around them as well. At the time of the Maccabees revolt in 166 BC, the Greeks were already occupied with the first phase of the Roman Republic. In 168 BC, they were already battling. They were battling, and they called it the Battle of the Pydna, Pydna. Okay, this is where the Romans overpowered in manpower their cousins, the Greeks. It was an easier shift of power. Okay, because remember, the Macedonians are Greek that stole what? Math, religion, artifacts, ideas, culture, literature, and inventions from all other nations. So the Romans are Greeks. So all that they have was just pretty much transferred to the Romans and the Republic of the Senatorial men, which were Rome. Remember, Rome was ran by a Senate. Greece, they crowned themselves to be kings. A peaceful community only to the Romans. To everyone else, it was war, but to the Romans, they were taking care of their citizens. They were taking care of their farmers, their people who lived within the society, where the Greeks didn't care.
Come and get them!
It was all about exports and imports with the Romans. They were trying to get food to come in and out to feed their people or the civilian population. Okay, so they care for their civilians or their citizens. Okay, so let's go to Carthage. When you look at the Romans, their first contest was against an external power in about 300 BC when they took on the Carthaginians. All right, these people were originally Phoenicians. A lot of brothers don't know that. They were originally Phoenicians from the Middle East. They call them Punic. All right, that comes from the Latin. And this is how you would say Phoenician in the Latin. You would say Punic. Okay, Punic. So thus you have the Punic Wars. Now it's called, today they call it Tunis, Tunis. So it was a seaborne trading empire. This is what it was known for in the old days, in the ancient times. The first Punic War, which began, if you look up Hannibal Barca, this is how he became a general. When his father died, some say he was drowned by his own men. But his father died, and Hannibal remembered the words of his father saying, those Romans are wicked men. He says, never let them get the upper hand. He says, take the war to them. And so this is what Hannibal Barca did. So at 26, Hannibal brought the Second Punic War to Rome. Okay? Now the First Punic War, when that happened, remember what I said, that Carthage was known as a city of ships, warships, and they had an army of ships. So they already had ports at Sicily. They had ports in various places in that Mediterranean Sea. All right, in the Great Sea, they already had many places that they had their ports. The Romans knew if they could conquer the Carthaginians, then they would conquer more territory and possibly take over that territory. Okay, so what they would do is they created ships to ram the ships of the Carthaginians. They created ramming devices. And so they didn't win that first one, but they made the Carthaginians think. This is why Hannibal did what he did. So when you look at Hannibal, the Second Punic War, which began around 220 BC to 218 BC. All right. When Hannibal scoured over the mountains with the elephants, that was a sneak attack. And so when he encountered the Romans, he took out about 3 legions of Roman armies. This is what people don't realize. He was making his way from the north part of Rome, working his way down into the midst of the city. That's where he was trying to get to. So he brought the Romans pretty much to their knees. All right? And the people of Rome thought anyone that attacked them was evil. Don't that sound familiar? Sounds familiar, right? So when Hannibal was en route to the heart of Rome, when he was about a week's march away, the Romans still would not seek a treaty. That's how stubborn they were. Very prideful people. Okay, when you look at Rome, they had never been attacked. They had like 70 years of peace, when no one has attacked them, but they were attacking everybody else. Okay, and we have to understand how our enemies think. They thought the same way then, and they think the same way now. And the Romans would rather die fighting than make a treaty. So Hannibal's allies against Rome, he had also allies. See, just like the Maccabees brothers. When you see the Maccabees, they made allies with various other nations too to defeat the Greeks. Even the Romans, that was in the baby stages of the Romans. They didn't really know them, but they made an alliance with them, and it backfired. Okay, when you read Second Maccabees, it backfired. And so they started trying to push even the Romans out. And when you read the book of Maccabees, First Maccabees, Second Maccabees, that is the introduction area for the Europeans coming into the Bible and taking over our land. Okay? And as I keep going through this video, I'll show you what I mean, because the people who were dwelling in Jerusalem, the southern kingdom, they were all dark people. They were Negroes. Okay? That word Negro has meaning. It's not what you think that it is here in America. That word Negro means Jew. Okay? All right, so just to enlighten you, the Third Punic War was about 149 to 146 BC, and Hannibal was taken into captivity. He was a little older then. He was a lot older then. His wife was taken from him. She was raped. And Hannibal, he committed suicide while he was in captivity rather than let the Romans have way at them. All right. So the important thing is this. These Israelites who remained in Israel under the Maccabees, who were fighting the Greeks, were Negroes, ranging from light brown to dark brown, and all the other tribes who were there. Okay, they were all the 12 tribes of Israel. We were all there in one spot. So when we were scattered abroad, we had already been going to West Africa before 70 AD. We were already going there. All right, here's a map. Here's a map, and this is coming from this book. I'll show it to you. This is coming from the Bible Atlas. Who is this by? David Barrett. Okay, so when you go into this book, you'll see this is Africa. There's Egypt. There's Israel. There's Arabian Desert. There's Syria. All right, there's Asia. There's Macedonia. All right, Italy, all the way down. So as you go down, look at Egypt. You got Cyrene, as you know, the man that helped Yahushua carry the cross was from Cyrene. That's in Africa. Alexandria is in Africa. Sahara Desert is in Africa. Numidia is in Africa. Who's the famous writer who wrote about that? But here's Carthage. Okay, this is where Hannibal dwelled. He was in Africa. Okay, and Italy and Spain, Hispania, was right above. And so you have these countries all about there. The Israelites, we were scattered all up here, even before the Roman Empire came into our land. All right. So to prove to you that we were in those lands, I'm going to go to the book of Josephus. Okay. New complete works of Josephus, revised expanded edition. This is an old book that I got. You probably need to get a new one. If you go to book 14, it goes to show you how much I use it. Book 14, let's go to chapter 7. And let's go to section 115 and let's read. It says, there were 4 classes of men among those of Cyrene. We just read where Cyrene were. Right? You guys didn't forget where that was. Here's Cyrene. Okay, so here's Josephus writing about Israelites in Africa. All right. There were 4 classes of men among those of Cyrene, that of citizens, that of husbandmen, the third of strangers, and the fourth of Jews. Now these Jews are already gotten into all cities, and it is hard to find a place in the habitable earth that has not admitted this tribe of men, and is not possessed by them. And it has come to pass that Egypt and Cyrene, as having the same governors, and a great number of other nations imitate their way of living, and maintain great bodies of these Jews in peculiar manner, can't talk today, and grew up to greater prosperity with them. They make use of the same laws with that nation also. So it's telling you, we were always in different cities in the West. Okay? We inhabited most of the lands, especially to the west, when we were conquered by the Babylonians, by the Greeks, even by the Egyptians. We would always go west. So we always had places to go on the west coast of Africa. So this is proving what I'm saying, or what we've been saying all along, is true. So this is not some sacred sanctuary of idiots and nuts getting information from the internet and the Inquirer. All right? These are valid resources. That the Israelites were black people. Okay? So let's move on. Let's go into more about him.
He's talented, he has grit, he has perseverance. Hannibal is one of the few enemies Rome had that they actually respect and idolize, and that is a lot because of his tremendous achievement.
He's got a famous father who's fought against the Romans, who nurtures him, in the words of some of the writers, as a lion cub raised for the destruction of Rome.
Going to Babylon and Timbuktu, Rudolph R. Windsor. And I'm going to read at 108. I'm going to drop down to the second paragraph. It says, the population of Carthage was derived from Palestine, and its civilization was Hebraic in origin. Slaus is certain after much research that the language Hannibal spoke, and in which he directed his troops, was Hebrew. There is evidence that the Carthaginians possessed a high priesthood, and their ceremonies and sacrifice were similar to the rituals found in the book of Leviticus. According to some inscriptions, the Hebrew tribes of Asher and Zebulun were in Carthage from the foundation of the city, At the ruins of Carthage were excavated many inscriptions containing many Hebrew names such as Joab, Joas, and Joel. Alright, so this is where we were. We had brothers and sisters who was in West Africa who were from the tribes of Asher and Zebulun. As we read down, it says the city of Tunis is said to be neither Arab nor European. Tunis is a Jew. He said Jewish, but really he meant to say Israelite city. Nowhere else does the Jew feel at home as he does in Tunis. Slough says, so beautiful, and indeed Tunis, the inheritor of Hebrew Carthage, is the eternal city of the Jews. For like the phoenix, the Jews have risen again and again out of the ashes of their destruction. After the sacking of the Carthage, the Jews were found again in Carthage under Roman domination. After the Byzantine persecutions, they fled into the desert. The desert put together by Harvard University. Okay, and what I want to show you is how they create lies about who we are as a people. So if you look at this coin here, this coin looks like a black man, right? Look at that coin. Looks like a black man. It is a black man. Look at the nose, look at the lips, look at the hair, look at the ears. Okay, I'm gonna drop down. Now this is the back of the coin. That's an elephant. That's the front of the coin again. Okay. Here's another coin. Right there. So you got the elephant on both of these coins on the back, and then you have a black man. So in order for someone to put a person on the coin, he had to be of some importance. Correct? Okay. So I want to bring out this is 271. So this coin is 271. Let's go over here. 271. Etruscan coins, observe. Head of a black Malhut. Reverse. Elephant. 3 century BC. Bronze. Diems. 1.8 and 1.9 cm. London, British Museum. So a Malhut is a person who rides a horse. That's what it's like, a rider. Okay. So it doesn't tell you who this person is. Okay. It's like they don't know. But they're telling you that this person is Ethiopian, right? So, you know, they never want to give the Negro precedent of who he really is. Look at this right here. The popularity of the Negro in the Hellenistic art, the understanding of the life of this non-Greek people in alien lands, and the care and skill with which blacks are portrayed reflect the cosmopolitanism of the age and prompt the inference that the sentiment of the kinship of all men, as expressed by Menander and later adapted by Terence, I am a man, I consider nothing, human foreign to me, was not limited to the philosopher or dramatist. This book is called Frank M. Snowden Jr., Blacks in Antiquity. So we're going to go in here and we're going to find the same coin. Alright. This coin is the same coin that we just saw in the other book. Same coins, right? As we look on, let's read the verbiage down below. 41. It says bronze coinage from central Italy depicting some of Hannibal's Malhuts. Coinage from central Italy depicting some of Hannibal's Malhuts. Profile hair frizzily, broad nose, thick, everted lips. So what are they telling you? That this is Hannibal. This is Hannibal. Okay? So they're telling you that not only was Hannibal face on a coin, but he's the one that took down the Roman armies. Okay? And they don't give us credit for that. I'm going to read this book. This is called Revelation. The movement of the Akan people from Canaan to Ghana. Alright? Akanba. So we're going to go over to page 65. Page 65. And this is talking about the North African Jews. And it says, the origin of Hannibal. The next question we will then come and ask ourselves is, who is that Hannibal at all? And how can we accept the fact that he was a Jew by origin? The answer is not far-fetched. The name Hannibal is made of Hanai in composition with Baal. Hanai is the short form of the biblical Hanel, the mercy of Yah. Hanel was the son of Ephod. He represented the tribe of Manasseh during the division of the land, Canaan. And it gives you the chapters of the verse. It says Hanel originated from the tribe of Asher. Those are the decrepit breakdowns of Asher. He was a family leader and one of the three sons of Wula, or Uwala, the biblical Ula. You can look at that up in 1 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 39. Drop down. It says, here we find the implication of the origin of the name Hannibal as a descendant of the tribe of Asher. One of the 12 tribes of Israel said to have been living in Carthago, and since the foundation of that nation, or from the tribe Manasseh, also one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Also the 12 tribes of Israel were the forefathers of the Akan and Guan folk. Therefore Hannibal, the forefather of the Akan and Guan. By the way, the name Asher is Akan, Guan, masculine name. So it's showing you that Hannibal is the one who rode on the horse, on the elephants. Terracotta war elephant from Pompeii. Hannibal used elephants in Zema. Okay, so it's showing you that Hannibal came out the tribe of Asher. So if he came out the tribe of Asher, where were the Hebrew Israelites? Scattered to the four corners of the earth, but most of us, over 1 million Jews, fled where? In the West Africa.
An empire that dominated the Mediterranean world for over 600 years. By developing some of the ancient world's most groundbreaking technology, both at home and in the far reaches of the known world. The centerpiece, a massive harbor that held hundreds of warships, the vanguard of antiquity's most formidable navy.
These ships are coming up fast. People see them coming. Carthage is here.
You know, the interesting thing too as well is you have the kingdom of Judah that's always the last one to stand in Israel. So you had Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, those tribes who came out of the Maccabean revolt. But then you have the 10 tribes who were scattered abroad already. Okay, you had those who were already in the Americas, and then you had those who were scattered, who were scattered throughout West Africa, and then you had those who were up in Europe. So it's interesting to look at this. A lot of people don't take this into consideration, that the 12 tribes were broken up when they go through history. And they watch these programs on the History Channel without even putting it into the equation. But that's where we come in, to show you that the 12 tribes were scattered, and they were always soldiers in the 12 tribes of Israel. We were a great army, okay? And we always revolted. We were the leading revolters in every captivity. Okay, so along with having prophets who were trying to keep us settled and who tried to keep us turning back towards the Most High. It's kind of like today. You look at today's world. You see all this Black Lives Matter stuff. You have a division between our people, the Negroes, Latinos, American Indians, where a lot of them are following Black Lives Matter. But then you have servants or prophets out there telling our people to change, turn back to the Most High. And how many of them are listening? Hardly any. But it was the same thing back then. You had Hannibal. Hannibal knew who he was. You know, that's the difference. But however, he didn't turn his ways back to the Father. And that's why he ended up losing after the Third Punic War. Okay? Hannibal, he had a very young wife. And during the Third Punic War, I was going to say Third World War, Third Punic War, his wife got kidnapped and they raped his wife in front of him. They took his scribe, and his scribe ended up working for the Romans and started to write down what was going on with Carthage after it was being pillaged. Scipio Africanus by Ross Lecco. Now this book was actually written in Spanish, and it was in Latin for a long time. Okay, and then they just changed it over. It's almost read like a novel, but as you read in here, it talks about what happened to Hannibal and what happened to Carthage. And it's Hannibal's scribe who's now working for Rome. That's what normally would happen. The soldiers who went in and won a war, they would take the booty, which would be all the goods, and they would take all the gold and the silver, and they would take the scribes, and the scribes would translate everything for them. Hannibal's scribe ended up going with Scipio Africanus, the second Scipio Africanus, and he ended up using him to his advantage. They didn't kill Hannibal right away. They tortured him for a long time. He had asked for his life to be taken, and they wouldn't let him just die easily. So there's books out there. Feats and Wisdom of the Ancients. So as we go in this book, we'll see on what page is this? Page 118, it reads, "We are the sons of Canaan from Sidon." Begins the manuscript. It is written in Phoenician language, used some 500 years before the birth of Hamashiach. In only 8 lines, it tells the story of voyage around Africa, of storm, human sacrifice, and salvation on the shores of what is now Brazil. So this is South America, Central America, right? It was indeed left by a Phoenician sailor. The text memorializes an ancient visit to the New World, long suspected by some scholars, if not the Parabia inscription, as it is called, is among history's most intriguing hoax. Okay, so this is proven to you that the Phoenicians sailed to faraway places. Okay, and they recognized themselves as coming from the sons of Canaan, which also are the sons of Ham. Okay, so you remember in the scriptures it says that Shem would take over Canaan's land. And we could go into Genesis and look that up. Genesis chapter, what is it? Genesis. Okay, so this is Genesis chapter 9, verse 26. Let's go up, 24. "And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Most High, the father of Shem. Okay, and Canaan shall be his servant." See that? "And the Most High shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant." So right there is showing you that we had Canaan as servants. The Phoenicians were Canaanites. And the Israelites, we understood that the whole West Africa, we could go there and inhabit that land as well. And so we went into the land of Carthage, and we inhabited that land. Okay? Along with the Phoenicians. So these are dark brown people amongst black people. Okay, so to the average European or Edomite or white person, they will look the same, but they're different. Just like the Japanese would be to the Chinese, 2 different people. Okay, so when we go into 1 Kings chapter 9, and we look at verse 23, it says, but the Pharaoh's daughter, let's go to 25. When we look at verse 25, it says, and three times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Most High, Yahweh, and he burnt incense upon the altar that was before the Most High, Yahweh. So he finished the house. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion Gabar, which is beside Elioth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. Remember, Israel possessed Edom. They took over all of Edom's land. This is why Job was an Israelite. When we took over Edom's land and pushed them into Petra, this is how we were able to take that land. And this is why we start calling out names like Eleazar and all these different names. Okay, but that's another class. Verse 27. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. So this is Hiram being a Canaanite. He's from the line of Ham, working with a Hebrew king, Solomon, king of Judah. And Solomon sent his servants, okay, which was probably Asher and Zebulun. Remember when Samuel spoke with the Most High, and then he talked to the priest of Israel. He said that all the children of Israel would be servants unto the king of Israel. Okay, verse 28. And they came to Ophir, and fetched from thence gold 420 talents, and brought it to the king Solomon. Let's skip over to chapter 10. So 3 times a year they went to these places. They went to the place called America. 3 times a year they went to the place called America. Alright, so let's go to 10 verse 22. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Haram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. And all the earth sought to Solomon to hear his wisdom, which the Most High had put in his heart. So all the stuff that he received was from South America, Central America, North America. Okay? So they were already going to America way before Christopher Columbus. Okay? They were already going. So going back to this book with the Phoenicians in America, which were Hamitic people, so we read that Solomon's servants, the Israelites, also went with them. This is how we know that Asher and Zebulun were amongst them. Let's read this one. Until the late 1960s, the case seemed settled and was virtually forgotten. Then Cyrus Gordon, an American scholar of Semitic languages, studied the text and declared it authentic. All of a sudden, this man declares everything that the scholars rejected authentic. Ironically, for some of the same reasons that it was adjudged fraudulent nearly a century before. So-called inaccuracies of vocabulary and grammar cited by critics in 1874 had become, by 1968, mere idiosyncrasies of dialect, meaning they were pointing all signs back to the people who had been there and left artifacts. Like they knew the Israelites had been there because of certain things. I'll read on. Similarities between the inscription and ancient Hebrew, once considered evidence of deceit, had since been documented as normal among Phoenicians, a people who mixed readily with a number of other cultures. So who was mixed amongst the Phoenicians? The Israelites. So they were already going to the Americas before the 10 tribes actually took off and headed over that way. Okay? So you had us going there on several accounts in the scriptures, and there's artifacts to prove this is what we did as a people.